Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Veterans in First Responders Ministry, where we offer faith based support to veterans, first responders, and their family members. Today is episode 5, where we will be discussing keeping faith when life gets heavy. And we'll be specifically looking at faith as a personal marker, life without faith as a contrast, faith as a stabilizer in chaos, and surrender versus self reliance. And typically, I would have on our chief pastor, Bob Hellman. Unfortunately, he could not make it this evening, so I'll be doing this one solo. So let's jump right in. We're going to be discussing again faith when it comes to difficult times and how you can use faith to evaluate your growth over time, who you are, who you were, and how far you've actually come. Because one of the biggest problems that people have in faith is when they turn to it, that they might get immediate results, and then difficult times might come up, and they'll quit. And they'll just say, "Where's God? I haven't seen any of my results. I'm not happy still. I haven't gotten any closure to my problems. Where's God? He must not be real. Let me quit." And that is one of the biggest problems that people have when they turn to faith. It's not giving your faith a chance to grow and not knowing the tools that you need to analyze your own faith. And that's what I want to bring to you today. And I like to always start by my own journey because I believe this is the best approach in coaching. And I do want to acknowledge that during my initial time of becoming a Christian and learning about faith, I was curious about whether or not this would succeed. Is this going to be beneficial to my life? And I didn't have anybody coaching me. There wasn't someone I could turn to say, how do I track my faith in my healing? How is it working in my healing? Is it successful? Is it not? So in my own coaching programs, I enjoy having people, and I'll talk about this next in a second, is reflection. Reflection is going to be a big deal. However, for right now, we're just going to talk about my journey. So when I first became a Christian, I immediately got baptized and my life just felt better right away, but I was already committed to giving Christianity a chance. And when I originally was coming home, coming off that kind of what I call the baptism high, where you're just feeling better, you're feeling great, but a lot of your problems still aren't resolved. And you don't know how you're going to get there. You don't know if faith is going to work, but you're just going to try it out. You're just going to do it anyways. So that's where I was. I'm like, I'm just going to try it out. I had no pastor at the time. I haven't met Bob. I probably didn't meet Bob, the chief pastor we have here, till about maybe 4 months after the baptism. So I was just stranded. I was like, I decided to go to different churches, test them out, talk to different pastors. I wasn't really connecting with anybody, but something kept telling me to get up every morning. And I mentioned in the podcast the importance of getting up every morning and finding peace with yourself. But something kept telling me to get up every morning. And I continued to do that, reading the Bible. And I spoke to my wife. I go, I don't know if the journey that I'm on right now, if I'm crazy or if this is actually going to be something real and that's going to make me into a different person. So we decided through my conversation with my wife, well, let's track your progress. Well, that was a really good question. Track my progress. Well, what areas am I trying to track? And that's when we decided to put a list together. Well, you're drinking, right? So you made a turn away from that. So let's track that. So you go back to drinking. Your anxiety, your stress, your happiness, and your growth as an individual. So we had a couple markers to look at. So I decided to put faith into each one of those markers. And I did no idea how I was going to get there, but I reflect now and I realize it was a long journey, but the journey wasn't hard, but there were hard moments. So the life of the journey, it wasn't just all struggles. There was a lot of peace, a lot of growth and happiness, but there were times in that journey where I wanted to give up on God because I didn't see my progress all the time. And even though I'm measuring them all, right, I'm looking at each one and I'm able to self measure myself. One of the problems I caught early on was that I don't have someone self measuring me. Meaning and this is a good coaching tip that when you're giving yourself personal goals on faith, it's important to have somebody else that you trust and love to talk to who can see your growth personally. That's going to be important. So that's what I did. I asked my wife. I followed up with her on month 3, and I said, how are you feeling about our relationship? How are you feeling about me? Do you see any changes? And she's like, yeah, I've seen amazing changes in you. I love who you are right now, even though our problems aren't resolved. But I love who you're becoming. I'm seeing it. And it's almost like I want to say, welcome back. I remember her saying that, welcome back. Meaning like you're not like you're just you seem present right now. That was something that I kept with me throughout my faith journey during those hard times because the initial couple few months there was growth. I was waking up, I was praying, I was trying to be more loving to my wife, more present with my family, and thinking really deep thinking about who I am as a person and how who I can grow into as an individual. And during those times, I didn't always see the growth though. The first 3 months, I didn't see it. Like clearly it was happening. It was happening, but I wasn't journaling. I didn't reflect too much about me. I didn't have somebody to talk to. I had somebody to talk to, but I didn't know I could talk to them in a specific way. So I remember initially one of the biggest problems I had was I'm waking up every single day, but in my head I wanted my relationship with my wife to just be perfect. And that was one of my main goals was, I just want to be perfect with my wife. And I wanted it to happen right away. And because it didn't happen right away, I would look at myself as failing somehow. All right, I'll talk to my wife. Why aren't you loving me? You see my changes. Why don't you love me right now? That actually had me question my faith a lot. Well, if my wife isn't happy, or she might have been happy, but not to where I want it to be, then in that case, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe faith isn't real. And if you get those questions, so everybody is going to have their faith challenged all of the time, especially early on, because the devil wants to remove you from God and your faith immediately. If he can interject himself in that early relationship and put those hard struggles on you as you're trying to get yourself out of the rut, he will do it. And the first thoughts that will come in your head is, God can't be real. God's not real. He's not like this. And, I don't feel like maybe this is for me. That's unfortunate because most Christians who stick through it and hold themselves accountable and put themselves through the trials, we call it, come out the other end a better person. But one key issue I did discover from people who typically quit early on isn't because they don't want to have faith. It's because they don't know how to hold to faith in a very kind of measured way. And that's why I decided to make a podcast because I struggled with this, right? I didn't know early on, like, okay, I have this faith thing and I don't know how to measure it. I don't know how to do anything with it. That it would have been really easy for me at the very beginning to just fall off and say, God's not real. This isn't working. And then gotten into a rut again. Um, so it's important if you're somebody who's early on their faith journey and I'm, going to repeat this part, is a way of holding to your faith is one, establishing goals for yourself and making sure there's accountability around them. Having another person that you trust and that you love, share your goals with them. See if they can help measure your progress just by noticing you. It doesn't have to be through constant conversations, just by maybe a weekly check in with you, bi-weekly. Maybe it's a loved one and they're with you every single day, like your significant other, or you have an adult son or a daughter who can be present. They see growth happening in you. Ask for their opinions on how you are growing and if there's areas that they're noticing about you and within those goals. And do that within the first month because there'll be so much growth happening in that first month. Second month is important, but keep it ongoing for as long as you can. And then the last part is, and I love this part, it's self-reflection. Self-reflection is important because you get to sit yourself down and think about the different areas that within your goals and then how you've been able to strive for them and how and the changes that are happening within you. And even though you might not be at that end goal, let's say within 6 months, but you notice you're 10% there, 20% there. That's showing growth. You can say, okay, I'm waking up every day, I'm reading the Bible. I do feel a little peace from that. And if peace is one of those metrics that you're using, you can say, well, I got like 10% peace right now, and it could just be in the morning for an hour. How does peace then? You might have another thing, which is how you treat others. Like maybe I want to be more loving. Does love come from that? So there's different ways of measuring it, but sit yourself down, figure out those goals, but then reflect on them every single week and every single time you are going through a problem. Because everybody, it's in the Bible too, people curse God. But people are so quick to throw in that towel and give up on their faith because they don't have the tools that they need to really analyze themselves enough. So I wanted to just share that initial part. So it's use faith as a marker. And what I mean by that also is throughout your faith journey, it's a faith journey. Use markers throughout it. So every time you reach a goal, rather it be a personal goal, look at it in the lens of, well, how did faith impact this goal? How did faith get me through those trying times? Because when life gets hard, and it's going to get hard, that walking with Jesus, it's never guaranteed to be easy. Growth isn't easy. Actually, your mind, your actual brain, is the longest part to heal throughout the body. It takes time to heal your brain and to reorganize the wires within it to start having different receptors connect and for those to grow and expand. And that comes through negative energy to positive energy, whatever it is. But I kind of forget where I was getting at with that one. But what I'm trying to say is that have goals. It really consider your faith journey throughout this process. How did and even think about challenges that might come up in the future. So if you're somebody who's dealing with anxiety and you know that when situations come up, you're going to get some form of stress or anxiety. It could be stress from family members, stress from the job. How, when I implement faith into this, how has it helped me? Right? And we talked about giving things to God during difficult times, maybe waking up early. How has faith helped with dealing with anxiety? Doesn't mean you're overcoming anxiety. How has it worked in dealing with it? And how has it worked in shaping you as a person? Because in Christianity, you got to read the Bible, you got to understand Jesus, and there's different ways of understanding Jesus. You can read the Bible, you can turn on YouTube, you can watch videos about Jesus, quick. I love one tool I love to give people are God's audio message, like God's message on YouTube, where they just listen to a 3.5 hour podcast and you feel like God's speaking directly to you. But what's good about those podcasts is that it's actually explaining who God is without having to read the Bible. So if you're early on, you just don't know where to start in the Bible, and you pick it up and it kind of is just overwhelming for you, you can have very practical, simple steps to understand God. If you're not if you're someone that's more like a listener, go on YouTube and find God's Message 3.5 hour podcast. It will talk about God's love the whole time. And then over time, when you're ready to get into the Bible, you'll already understand God. You'll already understand his love for you. You'll understand what faith means without even having to read the Bible yet. But it's just a simple little introduction to the Bible before you get into it. A lot of there's truth in it. And then you can just watch um podcasts, Spotify, all types of things. Is pastors out there talk about different messages about anxiety. You can use those as well. And you don't have to understand, you don't have to pick up a Bible to do that. But, in Christianity, we always encourage people to pick up the Bible. But I'm trying to reach you where you're at right now. And sometimes that needs to be in the simplest form. And that's kind of how I try to coach. I try to meet people where they're at, which is typically, I don't understand Christianity at all, and I don't even know what you're talking about in the Bible. And you know what? I'm busy. I might not even have time to read the Bible. It's like, okay, well, before you go to sleep, you can put the phone next to your ear and you can probably listen for an hour. You don't have to pay. You don't have to read the Bible if you don't want to. But if you're still interested in faith, there's all types of ways to learn about God initially. Initially. So that's why I kind of turn people to those. Just a good little coaching tool that I use, because I understand not everybody is a reader, and some people might be like me and they just listen to the audio Bible, and I put my eyes on the Bible every week, but I still love listening to the audio Bible before I go to bed. I listen to different chapters. John 1 being one of my favorite. I feel like that's always helped me with my anxiety and stress. But yeah, so as I was talking before, as I was going through my faith journey, I discovered probably 4 months in, I did a check-in with my wife, and I go, "Hey, you know, are we meeting my goals?" And every single goal we were hitting at some level, and I realized that, okay, and this is how I realized quickly that if I just stick to fixing me and who I am, then I believed, I had faith that God will handle my relationship, because God just wanted me to focus on me. He's just like, focus on you, focus on your personal growth, focus on your happiness, focus on bringing your anxiety down, bringing your stress down, how you're going to manage it. Wake up with me early. How, when those anxiety and stress come up, how giving things to me helps with that. Again, this is all just self focus, it's all on me. And I gave my relationship to God, and I said, You can handle it, because I can't fix it. I'm not going to fix something that's been difficult for the past few years. And that was a weight off my chest. So now I get just to focus on me. But I didn't realize, when I'm doing all of this, my wife is seeing it all. She's seeing this person come that she loved, that she always loved, and she always saw in me. She's like, I just see you coming out, and it's making me so happy. She's like, I love seeing you smile. I love seeing you with our son. I like how you're engaging in the community. She's like, there's just something is changing in you, and I see it. And that gave me that one conversation I had with her helped me with my faith so much, because since that conversation, I have had challenge after challenge come up. But then I go back to that first 3, 4 months as a reflection, and I go, I might be going through a tough time right now, and I might not be where I'm at, but I know I have faith in God that He will get me through this somehow, and that there's probably some growth happening that because faith can come in two ways. It can be this can be an opportunity. This is a good way to look at a life challenge, and when you're going through a really difficult trial and problems in your life, look at it as an opportunity to grow rather than look at this as a man, I am just so unfortunate. Everything happens to me. Look at it as a way of developing a way of building a closer relationship with God and saying, where am I? Like, I'm going to take this head on, put faith in God in it, and I'm going to use it as an opportunity to grow as a person and an individual. And I'm going to look through the learning and I'm going to see if there's learning lessons within this. Because at the end of the day, if you stick to your faith, God will always get you to where you need to be. It might not be the end goal that you're hoping for, but you'll get to a place that's better than what you thought you were supposed to be at. And that comes over time. So that's why it's important to stick to your faith. Don't just give up on it. But because I had faith as a marker early on in my journey, and because I discovered, well, I say the Holy Spirit helped me discover ways of tracking that faith, that progress, those goals, and throughout my faith journey, it really gave me more resilience when trials came up, when difficulties came up. I never question is if God is there. My new mindset was, okay, it's here. I can't change it. I can't change it, but I know God's real. I'm not going to let the devil come between me and that relationship. I know God's real. So let me take this head on. Let me give it to God and let me find ways of becoming a better person within it. And a big thing for me, which a lot of veterans, military, first responders could be patience. Patience because we're dealing with people all the time. A big one, and God loves to have us have our patience. When you walk with God, patience is a big thing. And I mentioned this in a previous podcast. We are a creature that loves instant gratification. And we get flustered really easily, especially if you're on a high stress job all the time. Your patience can get worn down. Your tolerance of people can get worn down. Your patience with, and it impacts your patience with your family, your patience with your kid, your patience with your loved ones. You just go off on them because you're at a job all day where you're just stressed out and you're always worked up. Well, in those moments, you know, God wants to grow your patience. And he'll find ways of growing that. So if you feel like you're somebody who's going through a lot of stress right now, whether at work or with your family, look at it as a way of growing as an individual. How can I find more patience? Maybe this is a challenge for me because God's about repetition. God will cycle that same challenge through you until you've mastered it. That's how He is. We're a cycle type universe. We're cycle, like we have a spiraling galaxy, a spiraling solar system, we have days, 24 hours that cycle, right? We're a cycle based pattern society and universe that God will cycle the same problem over and over until we recognize that as a training ground to grow, as a training ground to go into a deeper relationship with Him, and as a training ground to be more patient. So He'll always have things, He won't overwhelm us, but He'll have it come up until you mastered it. Patience is the hardest thing too to train. It's one of the most, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody out there, but one of the biggest challenges for me was being patient, but yet it was one of my biggest curses. It was something I needed to fix. And I decided when I realized in my journey that one of my biggest challenges that's impacting me in my relationship with my family and even in my career, it can make me look, aggressive because I want promotions or whatever it is. I immediately set that as a goal. I said, okay, God's showing me something right now. I'm having struggles dealing with my patience. Now this is a goal. I want to overcome my patience. I want to work on my patience. Perfect. God's like, perfect. I'm glad you finally caught on after like a half a year. He's like, I'm glad you finally noticed, John, that one of the biggest goals that you need is patience. Because patience can actually help with your anxiety. It can help with your stress. It can help how you love people. There's a lot of things that trickle out of not being patient. So I decided, all right, God, let's train my patience. And we set goals. And then I would keep my eye out throughout the day for when I'm not being patient. And I feel I feel it coming up. I say, hold up, stop myself. John, you're a 4-year-old, right? Well, I have a son. My sons drive me crazy. Yeah, if you have a kid, I'll tell you what, your kid will push your patience more than anybody. It's a perfect training ground. God will use your immediate environment for your training ground. So it could be your work, like people you encounter out in the community. It could be your coworkers, or it could be your immediate family member that you live with, or your loved ones, spouses, sisters, whoever. He will use them to test your patience, and he'll use them as a training for you. Think about that. Reset your mind and start looking at when your patience being tested, when you're getting impatient, be like, okay, God's testing me right now. I'm being tested. So what do I do? And when I started realizing, I kind of rose above myself in that moment. It's almost like you can almost like leave your body and look down on you and observe the environment and say, okay, John, your patients are being tested. If you react this way, it doesn't help your goal. If you do react in an impatient way, how can that impact your wife's view on you, your son's view on you? Because again, you're dealing with 4-year-olds, right? In this, we're given a hypothetical situation of dealing with a 4-year-old. And it's like, okay, my son's being impatient. He wants his cookie right away. He doesn't want to wait on anything. He doesn't want to wait on anybody. You get him his cookie right now. You told him no 20 times. He kicks and screams. He wants his cookie. You've had a long day. And then you can be like, you know what? That's enough. Raise your voice at them. Well, God's saying, I'm training you right now. Regain your emotions. Control your emotions. Don't let other people in your environment control your emotions. I was like, okay, how do I do that? And so there was a discovery of that, and the reason why I keep talking about patience is because this is one of my biggest. This is a humanity problem. Is it in this environment today? Self-satisfaction, hearing yes, getting our way is what we love. But in reality, our patients are very limited, and we're conditioned to be that way right now. If military first responder, if you're in the military, when you're a sergeant and you tell somebody to do something, they do it right away. You're at home with your family, you tell your kid to go do something, he's not doing it. You have rank structure in the military and the first responders. You tell someone go get it done, it means go do it. And the way we have tones that can be harsh. Come home, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it can be frustrating. It can push our patience. So I realize that I have impatience and I need to fix this up. And then I set goals of how I can become patient. So when I realized, myself discovered that God's showing me that I'm not patient, and that you know then I set micro goals from there. I break up that goal of I want to be patient, but then I discover who I am in that process of when I'm not patient, and say, okay, when my kid is, and I set this, when my kid is freaking out over a cookie, or my kid's upset because he wants something right away, or just I focus it on my son when he's upset about something and he's pushing my buttons. How am I going to handle that? That was a goal I had. And then I realized, like, I remember Jesus used to always go out in the wilderness every morning and he would pray, and that he was dealing with a lot of people out there who came to him for problems. And the reason why he woke up to pray every morning was to connect with God, but was also to prepare for the day, because he has a long day ahead. He's going to deal with people who are going to probably be driving him crazy all day. And like God, Jesus doesn't get driven crazy. He's Jesus, but we like to try to follow him on things. So if you're a human being and you're dealing with people all day, they're going to be pushing your buttons. You're probably going to be mentoring people who aren't listening to you. You're going to be trying to help people who don't want to listen to you. So there can be a lot of frustration that comes through. It can be, you can get impatient very easily. So I tried to mimic Jesus in my patience avenue, but I realized that he was very self-controlled. He was a self-controlled individual. He never like flipped. I mean, there's one time when in the Bible when he flipped the table because he thought that they were making a mockery of God. You can read about that story with the pastor sometime. But for the most part, he's always dealing with people, and he's the most loving person. I'm like, how did this man control his emotions so much? It's because he focused all of that with God. He focused it all on God. He said, I give everything that, his relationship with God was so strong that he understood that controlling his emotions was a part of his spiritual journey, and he was teaching us that. And I decided, let me use these as markers then. So you can kind of see how one little thing, one small thing of I could have looked at patience, and I could have missed patience totally, and I would have aspects of my spiritual journey that would have been failing over and over again, not realizing the importance of that learning mechanism, the training he's putting me through, and then how that's going to have this impact on all aspects of my life. Because my wife loves that I'm patient. She loves seeing me patient with my son. It was one of her own goals to have in a husband. It was to have a loving husband who's just always there for their kid and never gets riled up. He's very grounded. That's something that God knew about my wife that he was training me to become too. And so I could have easily given up on God because I go, you know what? I'm still losing my temper. My marriage isn't getting better. No one's listening to me in this house. I feel like I'm not being fixed, and I just give up on my faith. That's just one example of so many out there of how your faith can be tested. And you have to, but if you want to dissect what I'm saying is, if you're failing in a certain area and it seems repetitive over and over again, look at it maybe as a way of God trying to connect with you to say, you need to sit yourself down and figure out why this one thing keeps coming up. It might not seem like, it might seem a off the beat trail of like, of your goal. Like you might just be like, well, my goal is to be happy. And to, and I'm telling my wife I love her, but you might not have had a goal in there about patience because you just didn't think about that. You didn't think it through. So he'll take you down this beat trail of somewhere, that something you need to learn. Like, and it's usually within you. It's not like the external environments about your own growth. But you'll have to go down this beat trail. And when you're doing that, really think it through. Sit down. Could it be a loved one driving you crazy? Why then is this person continuously coming back into my life somehow? Is there some learning lesson here? Could it be I need to find barriers to put like between me and family members? Are they just toxic for me? That maybe I have to disconnect them for a season. Maybe it's they're 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 testing my patience and I have to learn, or maybe I have to be more understanding to other people. There's so many lessons, but you have to sit yourself down. This is why it's important to get to know who you are first and then figure out what your goals are. And as you're trying to achieve those goals, and then think about like, how could this learning lesson actually play into my overall goal of whatever it is? And so I really want to dig into patience because I feel like that resonates with a lot of veterans and first responders. And if you can master that, mastering patience, I mean, this podcast should just be about patience right now. If you can master that part, I'm telling you, you'll see a lot amazing things happen in your life after that. You really will. Some of the best results of patience is peace. Is not caring as much. Like this. Not saying don't care about like being a good person, being loving, but sometimes things aren't worth getting bogged down about. You're just not. It's like, I'm why am I letting this bother me? Why am I even letting it bother me? And because it's not bothering you anymore, you get to focus your happiness somewhere else. So, now I want to shift to consider before you quit faith. If you're in that moment of I am going through a lot and I want to quit my faith because I'm just feel like I'm never going to get out of where I'm at. Before you do that, and again, this is just quitting faith. We're not talking anything severe, right? If you think of hurting yourself or anything, you go seek help right away, and you go speak to a psychologist. We're just talking about you tried faith, and you're just like, I'm thinking about quitting. Well, we just covered the importance of setting goals, reflection, having what I call like a spiritual buddy. It could be a family member to just tell you about how you're growing and to analyze your life really a lot and to see if there's anything that's coming up in your life that's repetitive over and over again that God might be highlighting you might need to work on, and sit yourself down, try to work on them. But think about too, if you are, say you're doing all of this too, and then something else comes up. And it just seems like something else is always something else that comes up. And you're getting like, well, I just can't seem, John, even with all of these tools and tips that you're giving me, that, yeah, I'm seeing results in all these aspects, but I am just not where I want to be right now. And I just am done. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Well, then do this. Because I never try. I'm a Christian, I'm never somebody who forces faith on somebody. I'm never going to tell anybody that you have to do this and that's just the only way. Um Somebody that gives that space to God in you, and I say, do what you think is best, but before you go there, have you ever thought what life without faith would be like if you just decided to quit? Let's actually think about that. Let's play that out. Because one, let's reflect on your past, right? And hopefully you have goals by then. But talk to somebody else first. Ask them if they've seen progress in who you are as a person, because a lot of faith is about internal transformation. And then think about, if I gave up faith now, how could it impact my life? Because you might be somebody who's waking up every morning, you're journaling and you're praying. You might have been growing as a person in a positive way. And And the people around you are noticing it, but you're not. You might not even notice all your changes, but they're happening. And then if you gave it up, what fills that void now? What fills it? I mean, you can journey around to try to find your own thing. That's always tell people, go ahead, do what you want to do. But if you're seeing positive results, if you feel like there's a higher power, and this is this idea of a higher power is helping you, and then you remove this all overnight, there's a real chance that all of those things that you just fixed and worked on all come rushing back. And guess what? It's not going it's not going to fix your solution either of the problem that you're in right now, that you're just like, I just give up. That all of that isn't going to fix your solution either. You're still going to be in that moment. And then now you're going to have every negative thing that you've been working on mentally come rushing back to you. And then you're going to fall out of really good habits that you probably have put into your life. People around you might be like, oh, he or she was finally getting somewhere. Why did they quit? Why? I was seeing so much progress. Like, why do that? That's why it's important not to quit. If you ask me personally, that's why I decided, even in my tough moments, I thought, if I removed God right now, like even like this, I know there's going to be a moment in my life that's going to be so catastrophic. Like I hate preparing like that, but when you're a first responder, veteran, military member, we always think of worst case scenario. So I'm always like, at some point, I'm going to hit something really bad. And my faith is going to be tested like no other. That's why I constantly think about my life right now, reflection, journaling, everything, accountability, because those building blocks, those first 6 months are so important. Because when that gets tested, you're going to be boom, you're going to fall back, but you're going to fall back on who you came out of. Like, you were down in the dumps at one point. You were spiritually bankrupt. You were negative, you were depressed and everything. But in that journey of the first 4 or 5 months, you bounce back. You were resurrected into who you're becoming. And those moments are some of the, even though they're the hardest times, and like I said, it could be a really hard time in the future, but you got God got yourself out of that. You got yourself out of that. If you got yourself out of that, there's nothing that can't get you out of what's coming up in the future. Because you've already been to hell, your bodily hell. You know what it feels like to not have God. You know what it feels like to not have, feel like have nothing, no purpose, nothing. You know what that feels like. But you've developed yourself so much, you've worked with God and yourself, that when that hard day comes in the future, you're going to be so resilient to that. And you're going to be standing your ground saying, I know there's God because I know where I came from. And you're going to be able to resist that. But early on, these are the moments people don't understand. People, you want change, right? You want change in your life. But then you want to quit 3 months in, 4 months in, 5 months in, maybe 1 weekend, 2 weeks in. Then you want to quit. You got to want it. You got to want change. And you can't give up on yourself. It just like when you go to boot camp, basic training, you're dragging your face through the mud. You don't get to see your family. You're getting paid nothing. Trust me, you're not serving your country for a paycheck. You're serving it because you love it. And you put yourself mentally through the worst situation. Same thing with first responders. You are showing up to scenes that nobody on this planet wants to see. And you do it over and over again. You're not doing it for a paycheck. You're doing it because you love your country. And when you're in that mindset, man, you guys are capable of overcoming so many things, and you're doing it all the time, and you're carrying burdens while not getting help, but you're still resilient enough to do it. But now you're just at a point where, like, I just need help. But what I'm trying to say is that you're not somebody who just gives up. You're not. So if you see yourself giving up, hold tight for a second. Give it time. Why is time so important, especially in faith? Because it gives you an opportunity, and it gives God an opportunity to show the positive results that are happening, especially when you stick to a good regimen and you really understand yourself and you're really taking it seriously and you're really trying to fix yourself. Give that an opportunity more than a week, more than 2 months, more than 3 months. Give it a chance. It's like a flower blooming from the ground. You're a seed in that soil, and you're coming up and you're blooming. That takes time. Life is not a rush. This is why I love talking about patience. It's not a rush. You're going to get where you need to be, but there's going to be training lessons. And you're going to have to grow, and you're going to have to hold to that faith. So, this is why people quit. This is why people quit so early. It's not because they're not on the right path. It's not because they're not doing the right thing. It's because for some reason, if God doesn't give you everything you want right now, I'm just going to quit. Or if it's just one hard time or some hard time comes up, well, God's not real in that case, I quit. Well, then your expectations were wrong then. Because maybe you weren't analyzing yourself enough. Is the expectation God's going to buy you a gigantic house? It give you $1 million? Because there might be a problem. But if your goal's always been, I just want to be, you keep it simple. I just want to be a better person. I don't want to drink. I don't want to do drugs. I just want to be happy. I want to become a better person. Well, if God's helping you get there, and then out of nowhere, you're like, oh, well, wait a second. I didn't have this other thing happen, and now I'm going through another problem. In that case, God's not real. It's like, well, pump the brakes for a second. Give God a chance. Give him a chance. You give so many other things a chances in your life, but people want to quit on God right away. Think about all the other people who probably dealt with you in your life, giving you chances over and over and over again because they love you, right? If you're going through depression and you know you're not behaving and you know there's people putting up with you over and over again, they're giving you chances over and over again. Well, God's not going to disappoint you. He's just asking for one chance to, get you into a good path. Why can't you give him that? There's going to be plenty of things in your life you've given chances to, and you've given long ones for too. But then you want to give up on God. So that's why I want to talk about that. Just think about if I quit now, because when you're turning to God, you should, like, there's a goal, there's a reason for that, and there's probably a goal for it. And when you actually understand how to establish how you're going to get out of that and how you're going to work with God through it and how God's going to literally basically do everything, and you're going to make an effort to work on yourself, look at everything that you're building out and say, I mean, even if I don't have God and I don't have, like, these are good goals to have in general. So I'm basically just giving up on my goals. And now I just want to focus to the last part before we close up the podcast, and it's, surrender versus self-reliance. This is one of the toughest parts too, especially when you're trying to hold to difficult times, right? We talked about faith, without, with God, without him. But I also want to talk about surrender versus self-reliance. And, we're always trained to handle things alone. And then now you're learning to trust God. And that alone right there, your mind is shifting now from I'm personally alone on this planet. I have to fight for everything, to I have to surrender to a God, and and he's going to handle things for me, that makes no sense. That alone in those moments, because again, when you're going through difficult moments, your mind is already trained to believe you gotta start working. You're all alone. That it becomes like this survival mechanism of nobody's coming for me. I gotta freak out and I gotta start getting myself out of the rut. I'm all by myself. The idea of a god. Wait a second, like before you jump into that mindset. Oh wait, there's God here, and I can just kick back and relax in a way, right? You still have to work towards your goals, but I actually have a higher power guiding me, and that's trying to help me. And that I don't have to jump to this anxiety, stress, and freak out level. That alone can really make you quit Christianity. Because that is trippy. I know when I went through that, it was trippy. I was like, I never believed in God. Not one time. I was like, I'm always in it for myself. If I don't fix it, who the heck's gonna fix it? If like there's no higher power guiding me. That was my mindset. Having to literally hand that to God and say, wait, there is a higher power. He is here for me. And there is gonna be a way out of this somehow. I gotta be patient. I gotta trust something I can't see. Huh. Sounds a little sketchy, right? It's like, think about it. You're listening right now. Like, if you're not a Christian, like, sounds a little sketcy. What do you mean? I'm never going to rely on them. I'm quitting right now. What are you, crazy? Well, here's the catch. There is God. He is going to take care of you. There is a plan. You don't have to freak out. Your mind has to make that adjustment right now. Really sit down for a second. Sit down right now for a second and see your mind flip to that. Because you got something going on right now. And in your mind, you're thinking you're all alone. It doesn't matter even if you're a little bit into Christianity right now, right? We're talking first 3 whatever months, even if you're a little in Christianity right now. Your mind's still trying to understand what's happening. And you're still in that like self-survival mode. Nobody's coming. You hear that voice in your head, and it's gonna overpower. Right? Now hold up. Wait. Christianity, right? God is real. God loves me. God has a plan for me. I know if I stick through my faith and I continue down this faith path and I don't let the devil come between me and God, that there's going to be something out of this. And I know that for a fact. I don't know how I know it. That's where faith comes in. I don't know how it's going to happen, how I'm going to get there, what struggles we're going to come along with there. But at the end, there's going to be something that's going to put me in a better place than I am right now. And I'm not going to quit. How does that make you feel? Because that's truth. There is God. That is, your mind is having to adjust to something that you've been conditioned in your whole life, is to think you are all alone. There is no higher power. And now you have to go into what almost seems like a fictional place, right? The mind saying it's fictional, it's not real, you're crazy, but it is real. It's not fictional. And now you have to train your mind and to understand that. And you could even say the whole time too, well, why not just give it a chance anyways? What the heck was I doing before anyways? I'm over here freaking out right now. I'm freaking out. I might as well believe in it. I've tried everything else. Why not? I've done crazier things. I've turned to alcohol. I've turned to drugs. I've let my anxiety and stress destroy me because I believe I'm by myself. But you know what? When I actually think about God, I get, it makes me feel a little more comfortable. I'm actually able to sit down and just relax. I get to just, maybe just enjoy the moment, read a book. I do something I like. Because, at the end of the day, I can only control so much of my life. But in these moments, I can at least just believe that there's a God and he's going to help me. And you know what? God never disappoints on that. He doesn't. He gets us out of things. It takes time, but he'll do it. He's never gonna leave us. He loves you. He loves you so much. He loves you so much. He says all the time. He sent his only son here to die for you. He doesn't want you living in sin. He doesn't want you living in depression. He doesn't want you living in bodily hell. That's why Jesus died for our sins. This is why God's constantly forgiving us when we don't deserve it. He's always there. He's always lifting us up. He goes, here, take my hand. I got divine protection around you. Calm down. I'm going to handle it. Trust me. Relax. I tell you what, that mindset alone for me has worked miracles in my life, even through the trials. Holding on to my faith has developed me into beyond what I wanted to become. I never imagined I'll be where I'm at in my life right now when I turn to Christianity. Not one time. I've tried everything. But even in my goals of self-development, I never thought I would be where I'm at. And you know what? I didn't have to force other people to change their minds. I had to force things in my environment around me. All I had to do was just learn about God, learn about the Bible, grow my relationship with him, to really analyze myself, and just believe, just hold to my faith. I just held to my faith. I wouldn't let anything come between it because I got nothing else to lose. That's why. It was basically like I had nothing else to lose. I'm so committed to my change. I'm going to put my mind into this place that God is real. And I guess, you know what? Throughout the hard times, throughout the difficult times, all of it. I am so grateful I stuck with him. I'm so grateful I did, even when I questioned him, even when I was questioning the faith, questioning to quit, that I didn't do it. I'm so glad when I reflect now. I want everyone to get there. And guess what? There's millions of Christians out here who stick to their faith, and you can talk to each and every one of them. Go to your local churches. Go talk to them. Go talk to your friends. Some of them are Christian. And see what they tell you about sticking to their faith and how it's helped them in miraculous ways. We're not talking about, becoming the president of the United States. We're just like, man, I'm just so happy when I wake up. Like, it got me into fitness again. It got me just like finding peace in my daily life. It got me loving my spouse more. It made me a better person. All because I stuck to my faith. Even when the environment was collapsing around me, like everything seemed to just be going wrong. I just was like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on God, because that's what God wants. He wants you to focus on him. I'm just gonna focus on God as everything's collapsing around me, and I'm just going to hold to my faith because that's all I can do anyways at this point, and we'll just see what happens. That's where I was at. God was carrying me out of hell. Actually, Jesus was carrying the cross and me on his back. He was like, don't worry, I got you. I'm getting you through it. Stick to your faith. That's all you need to do. Just stick to it. Having faith has helped with my anxiety. It's helped me realize why my patience was impacting my anxiety and how to fix that with faith. I use faith as a marker on everything I do. No matter what goal I have, I tie my faith, weave it right into that, and say, well, during my goal journey, how am I going to get there? God, how are we going to get there? And I analyze it. And I look at the Bible, I look at my life, and I'm thinking about faith and how it's going to help me with my goal. And God has carried me to every goal because I always, like every Christian knows, we are always messing up all the time. And the Holy Spirit has to come in and save us. And so that's why I stick with faith, because if I try to do it alone, I'm gonna literally make a botchery out of the thing. But I know when God's with me, I can mess up 20 times and he will still be there to drag me across that finish line, because I can't do it my damn self. That's it. That's it. So I'm hoping now in this podcast we can just reflect on some things, because you're somebody in the moment right now. You're like, John, I can't hold to my faith. I'm struggling. Take a second, sit down with yourself. Self-reflect real quick. Self-reflection is a big thing. A big thing. Especially if you don't have anybody, like always self-reflect, but always like reflect on, hey, where have I grown? Where have I grown? How has faith grown me in that? How has my belief in God done that? And then also talk to somebody else. Have them early on in your spiritual journey. Find a spiritual accountability buddy. I don't care what it is, what you call it. And I do this in my coaching program. I make sure we find goals, and then I make sure we check on those goals, and I give them status updates of what I'm seeing every week about their progress. It doesn't mean every week they're hitting a specific goal, but they'll be hitting goals left and right. And then you do like a monthly check-in. Do this with your family member. It doesn't have to be a coach. It can just be a family. Hey, can you tell me if I'm doing a little bit better somewhere? And am I feel? And they'll let you know, because people see growth more than we see ourselves in growth. That's always important. But if you don't have anybody, but it's self-reflection is also just another important tool. Just reflect. Really sit down. Have I grown? Do I find more peace throughout my day? Is there more peace I'm hearing in my day? Am I enjoying waking up in the morning and spend time with God? You can have so many goals, but sit down and self-reflection. You'll see God all over that thing. You'll see him all over it. And you can look at it two ways. I did this all myself. Go ahead, do it. You can do that. Or you can just say, God, my faith in God and has literally impacted this journey. And it's not really me. It's my faith in God that has, when you reflect in the positive light, like that's God, my faith is why I'm up journaling. My faith is why I'm up praying. My faith is why I'm getting back active again. My faith is why I'm finding a little more peace. My faith, your faith is tied into all of that. Your faith is God. So you're seeing it. That's why it's important to reflect. And then if you're going through something right now, use all those positive things that are happening in your life to remind yourself of why God's real. And why these trying times there might be something here where God might be trying to train you on something that you're going to have to fix, because he's going to have to grow you somehow. And it's going to impact, and he needs this thing fixed because he can't get you to where you need to be unless you fix it. And guess what? You know what's great about God? He's going to have that. He's going to give you that opportunity to fix it like 10,000 times. And he's going to train you each time to get better. So you fail, but you get better. It's like getting on a bike and falling down. You get back on the bike and fall down. God's going to recycle that problem over and over and over again until you grow. So when you see those problems come up over and over again, track it, and say, did I actually do better in this test than I did maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago? Don't look at it as, oh man, this thing keeps coming back. In that case, God must not want me to be happy, or he must not be real, and I'm not supposed to fix this. And this is as a way of giving up on God. Look at it as actually an opportunity to grow your relationship with him into a better person. And then think about, what would life be without God? Like, say I just quit now and I just stop all this great progress because one thing came up. I just quit. What will it look like after that? Write that down. Write it down. Think about the future. If I kept to my faith, what would it look like? If I quit my faith, what would it look like? Try it out. See what happens. Like at the end of the day, I'm not going to convince somebody to stick to their faith. You are your own person. You're the keeper of your own soul. It's what's beautiful about life. And I don't bog myself down. I'm not the Christian who's telling you, stick to your faith. You got to stick to it. And listen, you're an adult. You're an adult. Veterans, first responders, military, we're all adults here. I want you to stick to your faith. Yes, I do. I absolutely 100% do, because I believe in you. I know God's real. I know he has a plan for you and he's going to get you out of it. However, I can't sit there and get bogged down on convincing somebody, and that's up to you to decide. And then really think about, in these trying moments, what's happening in your mind before you quit. Surrender versus self-reliance, because you are in a moment right now where your mind is going through a transformation and you're coming out of that matrix of guess what? Life is random. Everybody's in it for themselves. It's ground pound time and nobody's helping you. Hustle, hustle, hustle. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, 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 no. Now it's like, wait, God's got it all. God's got a plan for me. I'm surrendering it. And I'm relying on God, who I cannot see. And that's a problem with all Christians. I want God to appear right in front of me. I want Jesus to appear right in front of me and say, John, I'm real. And that doesn't happen. You can feel a presence, right? We're energy. We are energy beings. You can feel God's presence. You can see his presence all around you. But I'm talking about like literally putting your eyes on another human being type level. It's not going to happen. If you were seeing things, then you might need to see a psychologist, right? You shouldn't be seeing things around your home and people. If you feel the energy and just feel like there's something there, that's energy. That's spiritual moment. I mean, to me, that's real. So you're going to have to learn to calm your brain down in those moments of just, I want to quit, I want to give up, and I don't believe that there's God. Realize that's your brain going through an adjustment phase right now. You're going from whatever years of life being conditioned over and over of self-reliance to now surrender. Give that time to develop. Give God a chance. Give yourself that chance. I promise you, you're gonna be so thankful that you do it. Anyways, I do want to wrap this up soon. We're about an hour in. I hope that everybody got something from today. Again, this isn't about fixing all the problems. This is about giving you coaching tools and tips, talk about my own spiritual journey, and just hopefully, if you're someone who's listening right now, if you're in that moment early on, because I bet you if you're listening to my podcast, you just kind of turn to it. If you're early on, stick to it. Don't quit. You're not a quitter. You're not a quitter. I already know what you're capable of. I know what jobs you had. I know what type of heart you have. Don't quit. Stick to the faith, I promise you. God's got big plans for you. Bigger plans than you could even imagine. They're going to be beautiful. You're going to be in you're going to be like in heaven, right? Like a bodily heaven. You're going to be laying there one day. You're going to be like hanging out at the pool, totally relaxed. It's like you're like in Bermuda. You see a piece. It's such peace. Like you feel like you're in a Bermuda type body in the moment in your life. That's a peace we're getting you to. That's a happiness God's getting you to. It's that self-bodily peace and love, and it's going to be glorious. That's where you're heading to. You're coming out of hell. You're coming out of that crappy bodily hell that you've been in. And you're still early on, but guess what? You're getting closer every day to where you need to be. Stick with God. Stick with your faith. Figure out how faith is impacting every aspect of your life and your journey, and how it's woven into all of your goals. And I want to wrap that up today. I want to say I hope everyone has a blessed night. Thank you for everybody's service out there, and I'm wishing you the best.